guys, hope all of us are doing great. Today we're going to look at a concept in geometry, and this is the aspect of symmetry. Now, if we try to consider an object that we can be able to give us an illustration, just for illustration purposes. So suppose we have an object like this one. I can just be able to give an object like a human face shown as such. We can be able to consider drawing a mirror line just at the center of this specific image. We just put it more elaborate. So suppose we have a mirror line which is going to be given that center point. We can roughly see that if we consider this one to be side A and B of that specific image, then therefore we can a specific object, and this is going to be, let's call this one a mirror line. And we can be able to see that both sides of this particular face are going to look the same. And of course, one can be perceived to be a reflection of another. And this particular aspect is going to be referred to as a symmetry. And therefore, we can be able to regard it as a reflectional symmetry. So therefore, this is a kind of a symmetry that we have obtained from trying to perform a reflection of one aspect of this object on another. And therefore, this can be regarded as a reflectional symmetry. Now, if we try to consider another object, perhaps which is going to be, let's use a rectangle, we can be able to draw a specific lines which are going to be given as such. So if we have the first line at that specific point, we can be able to divide this particular rectangle in two parts. And therefore, this is going to form a line of symmetry. Let me call it line 1. And then we can be able to draw another line which is going to run across this specific part. And it's also going to form another line of symmetry, which I can give as line 2. So therefore, the line 1 and 2 are going to give us a specific line. And therefore, we have said that these are going to constitute the concept of a line of symmetry. And therefore, we can be able to regard this object, which is a rectangle, as a symmetrical object, which is going to have a vertical and horizontal lines of symmetry. And therefore, for a rectangle, it's going to have a vertical and horizontal lines of symmetry, which I've given as such. We can consider a number of objects and try to see. So this is going to have just a single line of symmetry. This is going to have two lines of symmetry. Now, various objects can have different lines of symmetry, and we can be able to consider a number of objects and try to see the comparison between different lines of symmetry that we're going to achieve. So if we have like a letter A, we can be able to draw a line of symmetry of this specific letter. I hope that's going to be seen as such. So it's going to be running through this specific center. So we're going to have a line of symmetry for this specific letter. So therefore, it's going to have one line of symmetry. And if we consider another object, perhaps of let's look at this specific object, like an oval or something like that. So we're going to have it having a line of symmetry at this specific point, and another one at that specific point. Of course, this is not circular, as I've just illustrated, but this is an object that consists of which is a spherical line, but consists of two lines of symmetry. So this is going to be line 1 horizontal and vertical line given as such. So there are going to be two lines of symmetry in this specific object. Now, suppose we consider another object like perhaps this letter O. Perhaps suppose we consider letter X, and therefore we can be able to have various lines of symmetry. The first one being the vertical one, and then we can have an horizontal one that is running in that specific direction. And along this specific path for this part of the letter, we're going to have a line of symmetry dividing between the this other part and the, so suppose this part A and B. So we're going to have this line of symmetry dividing this part, and then we're going to have another line of symmetry along this particular section. So we're going to have one line of symmetry, two lines of symmetry for L2, and then we're going to have three lines of symmetry for this one, and then lastly we're going to have for the fourth line of our symmetry given as such. So this specific letter is going to have 4 lines of our symmetry, and we can consider a number of objects which we are going to see, of course, displaying various aspects of this characteristic of our symmetry. And of course we can see that for some objects or some letters, as we can be able to consider for A, O, and X, I can be able to look at another letter which of course I can give as Z. So suppose we consider the center point for this specific letter, we can be able to rotate it in a 280 or rather 180 degrees rotation in order to obtain that specific letter, and therefore the specific transformation that is going to be assisting us achieve A prime from A or A prime prime from A, as we had given in one of our transformations, is going to be regarded as a rotational symmetry. So we had talked about the concept of a reflectional symmetry if we consider the aspect of a face, and we said that for a case of a regular figure like a rectangle, we're going to have of course horizontal and vertical lines of a symmetry. And of course from this specific aspect, some figures like the letter Z that are given can be able to be a given aspect of a symmetry through a rotation of 180 degrees, and of course that is going to be regarded as rotational symmetry. And therefore the various aspects of a symmetry that we have talked about, of course, are going to assist us in trying to find various lines of a symmetry that we're going to see. For instance, I can talk about the concept of a rectangle. Let's try to consider a square that is given as such. So we're going to have a vertical line of symmetry which is going to constitute a line 1, and then we're going to have an horizontal line of our symmetry which is going to constitute our line 2. And if we try to consider for the case of a square which has got these 4 sides equal, we can be able to have another line of symmetry that's going to run along those vertices from the diagonal point, and then another one that's going to run from this particular vertex at this specific edge, and therefore we're going to have it given as such. So we are going to have line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4 given as such. And of course this is going to have 4 lines of symmetry given as such. And therefore we can be able to see that for a square it's going to have, if we try to do our rotations, still we're going to maintain its aspect of a symmetry, and therefore it's going to have the 2 aspects of a symmetry which we have referred to as rotational and reflectional aspect of a symmetry. Therefore it can be able to attain rotational and reflectional symmetry, as we have said. Now for some figures like we are given O, so for some figures like a circle, they are going to have an infinite number of the lines of a symmetry. Now that we see that it's going to be a very large number of symmetrical lines which are going to be obtained from this specific case. And of course this is going to be lines of reflection, and of course angles that can be achieved through a rotational symmetry that we have given above. So we're going to use various aspects of trigonometry, especially in our evaluation on graphical methods, in trying to show various aspects of this aspect of symmetry that we're talking for rotational and reflectional symmetry respectively. So check our description boxes for various links of our various videos. And the playlist that I'm going to put, of course, is going to contain similar videos which are going to assist us understand various topics that we are discussing, especially under various topics like the one that we are doing for geometry, etc. So that is it for now, guys. Bye, God bless you. Catch us in our next video.